Hello and welcome to episode 25 of Hybrid Fitness Report. My name is Paul Reynolds.
My name is Jude Reynolds.
And we have quite a packed schedule for today. The main feature today that we have for you is an interview that we did a while ago with Dean from MacTuff Racing, one of a tranche of new hybrid fitness racing events in the UK. That MacTuff have got off to a very quick and heavy start with lots of events and lots of take-ups. So looking forward to sharing that with you. But in the meantime, we've got a couple of recent events to talk, query and wonder about, not least the behavior of CrossFit, who've been launching things and doing things and putting themselves back in very much in the media spotlight. I want to talk a little bit about their launch of Xenon, the new fixed event race that they've got going on, as well as the start of the Crossfit Open season. Our training update, how Jude and I have been getting on this week. A bit of a preview about the first Hyrox regional of the season, which is the American regional event, which will be in Washington, DC this weekend, and then give you a little bit of a preview into our new series that's starting next week. So perhaps first of all, Jude, if you want to give us a bit of an update on how your training's been going, because you're very much focused on the week after next, aren't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so continuing on from last week, the past I'd say 2 months have been a slow and steady build to some of the highest weeks of training volume that I've ever done. Obviously, coming into this newfound sort of professional athlete lifestyle, so my hours have gone from before per week, it was about 18 active hours a week, to now, I think the week that just went, I was on 25 hours a week, which is composed of 2 training sessions 5 days a week, and then 2 days a week are single session recovery days. And that just allows me to rack up some really good high volume weeks where, for me, I believe it's a bit more important than others, because a lot of the people around the level that I compete at, they come from a really high aerobic based background. So they'll have done maybe cycling or swimming, or a lot of them have done running in the past, and that's their background. So they're aerobic based when it comes to sort of low intensity training, and their everything like that is really high. Whereas my background is team sports, which doesn't have a lot of low intensity base building training. So I'm kind of at a disadvantage in that side. So for me, that's my priority. And so that's why my volume recently has been so high. I just feel so lucky to be able to carry out that volume so far since my injury free. So that's been really good. The key to that has been managing my running. So I'm running, I think, 4 times a week now. And that's only as of last week. Slowly building that up, because for me, that's been what's the most problematic as well as the most beneficial. So it's sort of riding that fine line. I think I do 3 of my runs a week are just either sub-threshold, threshold, or VO2 max. And then I've got 1 long, easy run just to make sure that I have the mileage in my legs as well. And only 1 run will be outside as well for just sort of joint preservation and low impact, etc. But most of my Zone 2 stuff is now done on the C2 bike that I recently just purchased. So that's been a really good help. A lot of erg, low intensity work, a lot of erg and running threshold work as well. I'm feeling really good going into Glasgow, but not looking forward to taper week, which is starting on either Saturday or Sunday. I'm not sure yet.
So for Glasgow, you've got your doubles with Michael O'Donnell and then the singles the day after.
2 days after.
2 days after.
So Friday doubles, Sunday solos. Yeah. So I'm making sure to taper well into that, and then continue on after. So
obviously you'll be peaking for the doubles. Will you still be peaked for the singles, or are you and Michael going to be X% off your best because you raced 2 days earlier?
Well, logic tells me that I won't be at my best, and I don't think biologically you can be at your physical best. But I've seen a lot of the Elite 15 athletes, not that I am one, but I'm trying to be like one. And 2 days before they've raced the doubles, the day after or 2 days after, they then got a PB in the solo. So it's not out of the question, especially considering my last solo, although it was a good result, I was injured doing it. So I am hopeful for a PB. But again, nowadays you can't count on the course, which is why we're changing to a points qualification system. So knowing that the race in Glasgow in both doubles and solos is going to be extremely competitive, especially in my age group, I'm more looking at a placement. So if I win with 1 hour 7 seconds, that just tells me that the course was really, really slow. Equally, if I come 6th with a PB, I'm not going to be happy. So it's mainly going to be placement that I'm looking for, especially in the doubles, because I haven't raced the doubles yet for qualification this season. I raced with Kieran Parkinson, but I wasn't. He's qualifying with Tony to try and qualify.
You're not his regular homie, so that one doesn't count.
Yeah. No. So me and Michael are definitely that's sort of my A race. Is the doubles on the Friday. But we spoke briefly last week about your decision on doing Miami. What's that looking like now?
What that's looking like is I still really don't want to do Miami because I'm worse than I was last week. So since last week, got a whole lot of stuff going on here that means my options are getting out and about limited. And also, not that stops me doing stuff in the garage, but it stops me doing a bunch of things. But also, back hurts, hips hurt, legs hurt, diet's not where it needs to be. So, I thought you made some great points last week about you should go and do Miami anyway and do yourself a 140 or what looks more like a 145, 150 and just use that as a benchmark and enjoy it and avoid the misery of going there and not doing the thing that is worse than going there and doing the thing. All of which might still be true, but all of which still feels a little bit of an exercise in self-humiliation at this point because I'm just completely off it. So, yeah, I'm feeling pretty grim, actually, about myself physiologically and racing-wise, I think would be. I mean, we had a long conversation before recording about the fact that I'm just so far off it and struggling with it. Yeah.
There are a couple of options that we're thinking about maybe you could try and adopt, but hopefully the mindset will have shifted before Miami. Whether or not that means you race it, I don't know. Obviously, we don't know that yet, but we'll see.
Yeah, I hope the mindset shifts as well. Okay, so training update is much the same as last week then, which is that you're doing more than you've ever done, and I'm doing less than I've done since I've started doing this hybrid racing stuff.
Yeah.
So, we're heading in opposite directions. So if I could just arrest that decline, that would be great. Especially because we've both got Malaga 2 weeks after Miami. So if I'm nowhere near in shape for Miami, which I won't be, I'll also be nowhere near in shape for Malaga, which means I'll have paid up for 2 races where I'm just going to be miles off it.
Well, if you do awful in Miami, you can't do worse in Malaga. So
I probably couldn't do worse in Malaga than I will do in Miami if I do it. That is true, but it's still going to be horrible. It's still going to be like, wow, I paid all that to do this. My gosh. Okay, so
well, you have, in all fairness, you have run an awful marathon before. So
I have run an awful marathon, but I didn't go into it.
It won't take as long as that.
Actually, no, that's true. Yeah, that was. Yeah, so that's a reference to doing the Berlin Marathon in October 2018 in 3 minutes 59 and 23 seconds, and then feeling so exhausted and training climaxed and recovery mode-ish that I then basically didn't train for 3 months and then trained for 6 weeks, much heavier, for the Tokyo Marathon, where I waddled around in 5 hours and 12 minutes.
And unless you get shot, that's not going to be the case in the Hyrox. So it'll be less than half the pain.
It'll be less than 5 hours, 12 minutes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm not looking at that as my plan C for Miami. I'm looking at under 2 hours as my plan C.
But if you do get that time, that's publicity, and I kind of need some of that right now. So
if I get 5 hours, 12 minutes?
Yeah. I've never seen that before.
So it would help you if I could get shot during Miami. And carry on, and come around in 5 hours, 12 minutes. So I think that segues very neatly into a DC regional preview. So the first regional race, which is a you made up weird extra thing Hyrox are doing to add a qualifying spot for the Elite 15 and make more money, is the regionals. So that's why.
There's APAC, Washington, and London.
Vienna. Oh, London. Yeah.
All right.
So what and why Hyrox regionals, Jude?
I think it's to give more people around the world a better opportunity to qualify. So you've got one in for the APAC region, which is on Australia. You've got Washington DC, and you've got London. the winner of those 3 races and the winner only will then qualify for the Elite 15 World Championships, instead of, which was last year, was one final qualification in Barcelona, which meant whether you lived in Tokyo or Australia, you had to travel to that Barcelona spot regardless. And then it was top 3 of that. So you still get 3 qualifiers outside the 4 majors, but they just come from one from each 3 now, which is geographically more fair in my opinion. And I kind of like the way that they did that.
And specifically, you could only be a qualifier from that regional event if you are from that region. So it kind of preserves the local element, which is especially good for expansion areas of the sport. Okay, what's going to happen then at the DC Regional, Jude? Who are we looking at and who are we paying attention to? Because obviously there are a couple of people like Dylan and Hunter who, in one sense, have got no motivation in terms of the reason the regional's there, because they're in the world anyway.
Hunter's not racing.
Okay, that's probably why he's not going then. But they're not going there, or Dylan's not going there, for example, if he does, to win because he needs to, because he's already in the world. So who needs to win?
I think my prediction of who's going to win is going to be Cole Learn. I think he's going there and he's around mid Elite 15 pack. So I'd say he's top 10 in the world in solos and top 5 at least in the world in doubles, given his results. And I just think there's no way anyone out of there, Ryan Douglas, Grayson Kilgore, Ryan Kent, although they're phenomenal athletes, I can't see them beating Cole Learn on his day. And with it, obviously, him not having to fly to somewhere crazy to do it, I think he'll take the win there. Or if not take the win, because you've also got athletes like Dylan Scott and Rich Ryan racing there, who are both, on paper, better athletes in the solo division than Cole. I think in terms of qualification, I think Cole's going to get his spot in the regional.
So who's he going to be going up against who, like him, needs this quick route in?
We've got Grayson Kilgore, Ryan Douglas, Isaac Sanderson, a bunch of athletes like that who are just sub-elite threshold. Jack Driscoll, who's been winning almost all the American races, he's going to be up there as well.
I mean, there might be some other guys that come up, but we're looking at those 5 guys as the 5 best guys who can't get in the new normal route of placing in a major event. So they will be racing alongside in this race, people like Rich Ryan, who's qualified for Stockholm already from his major performances, from Dylan Scott, who's also qualified for Stockholm through his major performances. All right, so that's DC. And then there's a normal Hyrox event all around it. Everyone else is doing their usual thing. There are a bunch of people like me, around feeling sorry for themselves in 5 hours and 12 minutes. So that's the DC regional preview. I want to talk a little bit about what's going on with CrossFit. So February sees the start of the CrossFit Open season, where they release 3 workouts 2 weeks apart, where everybody in the world who wants it... Oh, no, what? 1 week apart?
1 week apart.
Okay, so they release 3 events, 1 week apart. Everyone in the world can compete. You need to have a monitored performance. And the first event, 26.1, preceded by CrossFit advertising with the arm wrestling meme between CrossFit and Hyrox, was wall balls and box step overs.
Jumps.
Box jumps. So this seemed very squarely aimed at, hey, look, let's have a bunch of CrossFitters outperform Hyroxers doing Hyrox stuff, even though box jumps aren't a Hyrox thing, they're a Deca thing. But anyway, it was very much targeting the fitness behemoth that is now Hyrox, and inviting people
in your opinion?
Numbers-wise, I'm not talking about what's great and what's not so great. I'm talking about numbers-wise. Isn't Hyrox the biggest thing out there right now?
No, I meant you claiming that it's targeting Hyrox.
It was CrossFit advertising. There was a CrossFit Instagram post with the arm wrestling meme, and one arm is labeled CrossFit and the other arm is labeled Hyrox.
Oh,
and that was the part
I thought that was your interpretation of the workout.
No, that's not my interpretation. That was literally part of their advertising. So there's been a lot of CrossFit adjacent cross influencers have been out there for, I don't know, 2 years now, talking about how Hyroxers are all pathetic and weak, and isn't it great that we're so strong and manly because we do CrossFit instead. And CrossFit corporate seem to have politely bought into that by challenging the Hyrox world. I mean, it slightly misses the point that by the time I'm doing wall balls, I've already been running around for an hour and a half. And by the time you're doing wall balls, you've been running around for 53 minutes and change. So it's not really an equivalent, but hey, it's marketing. They want to get people riled up. It's a little bit of rage bait, never hurt anybody. And it's all fair in love and war. Except that what's also true is you got one of the recurring themes amongst online has been people not politely critiquing Hyrox wall ball squat depth. But it was always the case that you get hundreds of thousands of people doing hundreds of wall balls, and obviously you'll be able to find videos of people not going to depth. But when you have to do something 100 times under what's the word? Under what?
Fatigue.
That's it. I was going to say under duress, which is also true. Under duress,
true.
Under duress and fatigue, you're going to get some dodgy reps. But then CrossFit 26.1 tells people to do umpteen wall balls, and sure enough, there are a bunch of people being judged where the judge is looking at, are they hitting the target with their throws? And yeah, that's great, and ignoring the fact that not one of the squats are going to depth. It's like, that's what happens. It's not that Hyrox is some weird community that don't do squat depth properly. Everyone doesn't do squat depth properly if you force them to do loads and loads of squats. That's how that works.
With the results of the Open, I think Miriam von Rohr, who won the Open last year and is actually a very good Hyrox athlete herself, smoked everyone on the planet in 26.1.
That's fantastic.
In just the most amazing display of squatting and box jumps I've ever seen. it was on the bike yesterday watching her do 26.1. She put the video out and it is just ridiculous. To finish that workout in 9 minutes and 50 seconds is absurd. Her cadence the entire time, I believe it's 186 wall balls overall. For her to not put 1 foot wrong the entire time, what happened, one thing that she did was she stepped up one random rep on a box jump instead of jumping up. That was the only thing the entire workout that she slipped up on. Other than that, it was 100% flawless. And it just doesn't look like her body knows what hydrogen ions are, which is basically what hurts when you get lactate buildup with the hydrogen ions.
My body doesn't know what hydrogen ions either.
I just want to make sure it's hydrogen, not calcium. Hang on.
You wouldn't want to be telling the world that her calcium ions were thick, would you?
Wait.
I'm going to have to leave this in. The fact that you invoked hydrogen ions and then had to search to find out that they weren't calcium ions.
Please don't be calcium. I think it... Yeah, it is hydrogen. Ha!
Wow, you've won a knowledge contest against yourself. Congratulations. So she has very intelligent hydrogen ions.
Yes, she won 26.1 again out of the females. And then on the men's side,
Colton Mertens.
I watched when it... No, he came third.
Did he? Wow.
Yeah, he came third. There were 2 Icelandic dudes who did it with each other, who both beat him. You had
Good grief.
Bjarni Leifs, who did it in 10:59, and then, gosh, my Icelandic isn't that good, Rockvi Gudnason, who did it in 11:05. So one beat him by 11 seconds, one beat him by 17 seconds.
Wow. So Colton Mertens doesn't win CrossFit Open 26.1.
No.
Shocker.
And Miriam van Rohr beats everyone on the planet by a minute.
By a minute and a half.
Seconds.
So that was 26.1. But Xenon, which, just to continue the theme of CrossFit, not caring about Hyrox at all and not being in any way threatened or trying to set up a grudge thing or rage baiting anyone, has set up an entire sport predicated on... So CrossFit's whole thing is you don't know what the event's going to be. You just kind of rock up or you get a couple of days' notice and then you find out what the event is. So you just have to be brilliant at everything and a gymnastic genius and then you'll be fine. They've now decided to invent an entire sport where the event's the same the whole time. So it's calling itself, I think, the decathlon of hybrid fitness or something like that. So there's 10 different events and they're still in this heavy marketing phase of selling tickets for an event where you don't know exactly what's in it yet because they haven't released all the events yet. But the idea is that these events will never change so that you can have a global leaderboard. So part of me, I think part of anyone who was looking at this was going, oh, this is interesting. This might be like maybe it's more CrossFit's come back to ethics, who's kind of like taking CrossFit and hybrid fitness elements and having a lot of that power stuff. And so I was interested to see if it was something I'd go for. And then I saw the first event and immediately knew I would never do it because it was a 1 rep max snatch.
Yeah.
So I guess you're not that keen on it either. And then I think they've just released events 5 or 7. I can't remember which it is, which is
both.
They've just reached 5 and 7. So it was wall walk into rope climb. I'm like, okay, now I'm very happy for everyone who can do that, and it's awesome, and I'm very impressed. And I'm very impressed. I mean, you and I have been to a CrossFit finals, and it was great, and it's very impressive, and it's brilliant. And
you cannot say CrossFit finals.
I know. I know. I knew there was a word I was getting wrong there. It is that. So if you don't do it, it's the finals. The whole year is the games, and they're pretending. They're pretending to be gladiators. It's all part of the pretension.
We're a fitness podcast. You can't call it CrossFit finals.
The CrossFit Games finals. That's even worse.
No.
So to the CrossFit Games, pretending that no one's been doing CrossFit all year. The CrossFit Games in Wisconsin a couple of years ago, and watching massive jacked guys doing rope climbs is pretty cool, because you think, how are you doing that? You're enormous. So it's very impressive, but it's very impressive in the way that CrossFit has always been impressive, which is gymnastic technical ability and massive strength. And so this isn't actually, to me, as much aimed at CrossFit as perhaps it looked like, because no one who's fled CrossFit to go to Hyrox because they can't do gymnastics is going to go and do Xeno, because it's just as bad. It's just as bad in a predictable way, right? So this is just looking for people for a kind of more predictable training regime. Maybe it's also looking at what Hyrox is looking at, which is, can we get a piece of the Olympic pie? Can we have part of what we do become an Olympic sport? I mean, do you think there's any of that in it?
I don't know. I think, I'd love it if we could find someone from the CrossFit community to come and explain to us what the intention of it was. Maybe I'd therefore see a different side to it. But as of right now, I don't understand the point. I don't see it being very popular at all, when in order to do event number 1 or the first event they published, you have to be able to be competent at arguably the most complex Olympic lift there is,
which is the snatch,
which is a barbell snatch. So it put me off. And
run us through what the snatch is.
It's where the barbell's on the ground and you take a wide grip. So your hands are likely going to be right to the very edge of the bar. You then explosively do very wide gripped deadlift into immediately catching it with straight elbows above your head in a squat position, and then overhead squatting it up. So an overhead squat in itself, first of all, is the hardest movement I have ever done with a barbell. And you then add an explosive start to the movement and catch it in that overhead position in a squat. I mean, it's if their intention is to be exclusive, then sure. I mean, you've done that. I just don't understand how they expect it to get any sort of popularity when you've got Wodapalooza, CrossFit, and other CrossFit
World
events
projects.
That are just, WFP. I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. So is it appealing to their existing base? Is it just dividing up their own base yet further, or there must be, as you say, you don't know who it appeals to. It must be appealing to some people out there who aren't doing CrossFit. I'm just trying to think. Who looks at CrossFit and goes, oh, no, it's too varied? I think it's kind of cool, because anytime you can look at developing and repeated rankings, I think it's more interesting for the casual, shoulder-challenged observer. So that takes us through, I think, everything. The only thing that remains is if you could just give us a bit of an intro to the series that we're starting next week. So we teased the global hybrid fitness community back in, I think, November, and got yet more anticipation building, almost feverish, I think it'd be fair to say, anticipation for our impending series on an in-depth, deep dive, hyper-analytical, and yet curiously also relatable examination of the hybrid fitness stations. So we're going to talk about
what an intro.
We're going to look at all the hybrid fitness racing stations. I'm quite excited about it, actually. So you're going to be leading the way for us on that. And we're kicking off next week with what?
With the squat. So instead of going through every single, like you said, different sport and going wall ball, thruster, goblet squat, which all follow the same movement pattern of a squat, the first movement will be just the squat in general, and then I'll sort of break off into different ways in which events interpret the squats. Like I said, you got a wall ball, goblet squat, different events. So we're just going to go deep dive into that, how to ensure that your form is consistent, how to make sure it meets the movement standards, and just how to train for different events that involve different variations of the squat.
Awesome. So looking forward to doing that. We'll kick that off next week. In the meantime, just before we hand over to ourselves and Dean, want to talk to you all about Wadleet. Hybrid Fitness Report is sponsored by Wadleet, a UK-based sports clothing company. Founded by an Ironman athlete and designed for functional fitness, even xenon hybrid and endurance sports, ready for training and race day. If you need brand name performance and quality from your clothing without brand name markups in price, you need Wadleet. For free delivery on all UK orders over £50 and to see their winter range as we're heading into what in the UK passes for a spring, go to wadleet.co.uk. That's WODLETE.co.uk today. Use code HFRPOD20, that's HFRPOD20 at checkout for 20% off your order. And thanks again to Wadleet for all your support. And now, handing over to our interview and introducing Dean from MacTuff Racing. Hope you enjoy that, and we'll speak to you soon. I've been Paul Reynolds.
I've been Jude Reynolds.
Bye-bye. Dean O'Grady, welcome to Hybrid Fitness Report.
Good afternoon or good morning, wherever it is that anybody's listening in from.
Good to have you on. And Dean, are you founder / director? What's your position in MacTuffX Racing?
When you're in any small business, whatever title you give yourself is just it's nonsense, really, isn't it? Again, you.
Okay, not that I have no idea what that means, but for those that don't, what's that mean?
Well, look, you get involved in everything, Right. Yesterday we were setting up at Knockhill for our Tough event and not MacTuffX, and at the end of the day we were sweeping the van out. How founderish or CEO-ish is that?
Completely founderish. Love it.
Right. So very, very hands-on, very involved with all the
operations. I mean, look, it's a traditional sort of stereotypical small business where you turn your hand to anything and everything, and whatever you need to do, if it needs doing and there's nobody else to do it. So, giving yourself these sort of lofty titles, on my business card I put director because, I'm a director of the business. But, I think people get a bit grandiose over these things.
Can do, definitely. So do you want to tell us a little bit about the original part of the business and then how MacTuffX Fitness Racing evolved or emerged from that?
Sure. Brief history in 60 seconds. MacTuff started 2014 under the previous owner, Alex. Alex was big in the OCR community, running marshal at the original Tough Guy for many years. And he had a great relationship with Mr. Mouse, who is famous in the OCR world. If you don't know who he is, you don't know OCR. And Alex decided that Scotland needed something. He originally called it MacTuff Guy, with the same spelling as Tough Guy, which Mr. Mouse didn't threaten him with legal action or threaten to kill him. As a farmer, they usually carry shotguns. And that sort of gradually evolved into MacTuff, which 2016 winter event, which generally tries to keep people alive and kill them at the same time. Which, if you've done the event in January at Knockhill Racing Circuit in Scotland, you would understand. It's a great event, very humbling. People only do it once because, it tries to kill them every inch of the way. And as a result, it's a very, very difficult event to encourage people to come back to. I took over MacTuff in 2021 during COVID. And for me, MacTuff, great brand, everything it stood for was just great. I've tried to expand it, done really well in some parts. Kids, we're now a few thousand a year at one event. We've developed Aberdeen event, couple of thousand there. Gone to a half marathon, which is sold out for the last couple of years, 800 people. Done a few different things, a bit more on the sort of muddy theme. But the core event in January, unfortunately, just hasn't had traction. It's the one thing that hasn't succeeded. And unfortunately, last year's event was cancelled an hour before the event because of weather. This year's event is going to be the last in January. And already, without the cancellation of last year's event, I was considering it to be the last because it's just a lack of traction. The market tells you what's good and what's right. And if you can't get 1,000 people to an event that's been running for 10 years, people don't want it. So, yeah, unfortunately, as great a history as it's got, and as many people are so fond of it, it's got to go. Emotion and business doesn't go hand in hand. It can go for so long, but then ego starts to get in the way, and you've got to put that away and just do what's right for the longevity of the business. So coming around to MacTuffX, this has been in the pipeline for 2-3 years, since 2022, when I sort of took over properly. I was looking at different formats. We were looking at aircraft hangars, military stuff, which led to the Barry Budden half marathon, which we do, all kinds of different things that I could do with a format of hybrid fitness, because it was clear with Hyrox that this was the way people were going. OCR has been unfortunately dying for the last 6-7 years, and COVID just really accelerated that demise. So looked at lots of different things. 2023, I was gonna launch. Life got in the way, as it does, and put it on ice. And this summer, 2025, decided, I've absolutely got to do it now and never. And a lot of things were already in place because I had it in the pipeline 2 years prior. So it was really a case of putting all the stuff together, all the venues together, and then deciding when to launch when it was pretty much all there.
So listening to that from my point of view, the whole weather being cancelled an hour before, this and that, it already sounds different to the likes of Hyrox, Deca, Metrics, those hybrid events.
Well, again, you don't confuse the two, and this is why we've deliberately MacTuffX, different website, different socials, different everything to MacTuff. MacTuff has little or nothing to do with MacTuffX other than the name and the fact that it's still run under the guise of MacTuff,
Right.
and I own it all. So don't get confused with OCR. Don't get confused with mud. This is taking place on an athletics track, 10 exercises, 400 meters or 800 meters running in between each exercise. It's a very simple. Simple sounds like a horrible word when you say it's a simple event, but it is. It's a simple event, but it does work. And other events already in the marketplace have demonstrated that this format does work. And because it's repeatable, because every athletic stadium is pretty much the same, it's a 400 meters track and an infield, it means that the event, when it's replicated pretty accurately. One of the things that I've noticed, Hyrox is an example because, it's a market leader, and ultimately it's the thing that probably most people in functional fitness events aspire to, although, we're certainly in a different direction, but I'll tell you about that in a minute. But Hyrox problems, you look at the way the events run, they have a finite amount of space, and that finite amount of space is different for every venue that they're at. So that means that their running area changes. The rock zone can be a different size. Everything can be a bit different. So you could have an awesome race in Prague, and then you come to Dublin or you go to London, and the set out and the layout's different. You can get confused. You can get your balance and your pacing, and everything can change.
So with that consistency, are you able to tell us what those 10 exercises are that might interest people that are thinking about doing it?
Again, very, very simple. And when I talk about simple, again, it's not using any equipment that has any real difficulty to it. Again, running through the 10, alternating snatch, which is a thirst, which is a hex bell, 15 kg men, 9 kg ladies. The second exercise, walking lunge, 100 meters, men 20 kg sandbag, ladies 10 kg, double press, 30 reps. Again, if this bores you, just tell me to stop.
We want this.
No,
It's after that, bear crawl, 200 meters, which is probably everybody's favourite. Not because it's just such an unnatural exercise. Yeah, well, yeah, you know, we're just not meant to be on all fours. That's why we're bipedal.
Yep.
Simple as that. Number 5, overhead carry, 200 meters, sandbag, men 15k, ladies 10k. Number 6 is kettlebell deadlift, 80 reps, men 32k kettlebell, ladies 24k. Number 7's another one of everyone's traditional favourites, the burpee broad jump, 100 meters, just to give that extra 20 meters of horribleness, because everyone loves burpee broad jumps. And then I deliberately sort of after, again, you'll note that after 5, there isn't any real sort of exercises where there's weights that can do any damage as people get more and more fatigued. And that was kind of deliberate thing. So if I explain 8, 9, 10, that will clarify a bit further. So 8 is the slam ball, ground to overhead, 9 kilo slam ball, men 6 kilo slam ball, ladies 50 reps. And again, a slam ball, if that hits you on your head when you're knackered, it's not really going to cause anything other than embarrassment. 9 is a Zercher carry. I wanted something a bit different than the traditional farmers because everybody does the farmers. So the Zercher is a little bit more core in terms of it, rather than just spreading the weight out. 250 meters, just to make sure it will hurt a little bit. Do you want to just tell us about
what that is? Because I hadn't heard of it before looking at your website, Dean. Yeah.
Oh, the Zercher. It's basically, so you've got your arms in front of you, and then you've got the sandbag across your forearms. So over time, what that does is really, one, it imprints the weight into your forearms, which is why it's a sandbag. But yeah, it hurts quite a bit.
Great bicep pump, though, I can imagine.
Yeah, but it just goes through your whole core as well, and that's a 25k sandbag for men, 15k for sandbag for ladies, and then we finish with slam ball sit up, 30 reps, 9 kilo slam ball again for men, 6 kilos slam ball for ladies.
And as you said before, you have the option of signing up for the 400-meter runs in between the stations or the 800-meter runs.
Yeah, obviously the 400 meters is going to appeal to, you know, a lot of those that are just getting into this, and a lot of those that are, you know, in the earlier elements of their fitness journey, where you've got some, you know, quite accomplished athletes who, you know, maybe doing Hyroxes and the like that want a bit more. And I think that 400 meters just probably isn't enough for them. Hence, doing the 2X, which gives you a bit more distance, spreads the exercises out for you a bit more.
Jude, what do you think? 400 meters or 800 meters?
Well, I haven't done a race with 400 meters yet, I don't think, but Deca proportionally I'm better than Hyrox, and that running's half the distance, so it might lend itself better to me because I've only started running consistently for the past year and a half maybe, and I'm not a fan. So
yeah, I mean, the sort of the thing with this is I didn't want to make it a strength the strength game, so to speak, and I think a fair few functional fitness events, and again, you draw to Hyrox. It's only so many. You've got to be at a certain level to be able to push and pull a sled. A lot of people are terrified of that for good reason. So having light weights, high reps, it means that it's more of a stamina exercise, and it draws more into mental. We've had 65-year-old grandmas doing it, and these aren't, you know, muscle bound like ladies that go to the gym 50 times a week. They're the people that look like your mum. It's really surprising.
So I've asked by Athena this question before when I went there and raced their race. Is your target audience primarily one either or elite or the everyday athlete, or is it to try and get everyone involved?
I would say we're naturally targeted the everyday. We'd like to see a few of the 5%ers or the 1%ers that I call them. For me, fitness is a pyramid, and Hyrox probably deals with the top part of the pyramid, whereas we're probably more at the bottom part of the pyramid.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so an accessible event that if the elites push themselves, they can still enjoy too. Gotcha.
Yes,
right.
Yeah. We don't want something that people could walk around in 15 minutes if they're really fit. We still want to provide a bit of a challenge. I think that the benchmark will only come when people have done it, and we've seen over a year when we've had a number of high performing athletes in is how easy is it? And obviously at this early stage, we're not in a place where we can do multiple divisions and multiple weights. It'd be great to think in 2-3 years time that we could have I hate to call pro level weights and stuff like that, but higher weights to be able to accommodate people that want more. But in the early days, we're definitely just trying to appeal to as many people as we can.
From my point of view, what I like is, although the weights, like if I had to craft my own event and change it from yours, I'd make the weights heavier. But again, at the end of the day, this is accessible. What I like about your race is that although the weights are light, you'd then think, oh, it's a runner's race. But the running, compared to how long the stations seem to be, isn't that high of a ratio. So the stations are long. They might be light, but the stations are long, and the runs are a decent length. So that's what I like. As the stations aren't light and short; they're light but quite long as well. So it doesn't make it a runner's race, and it doesn't make it a strength race.
Yeah, it's quite balanced. It's quite balanced. Again, the whole thing with this thing, theory is great. It's only when you've got hundreds of people doing it per event that you really see the overall reaction, and you start to feel what the consensus is.
Do you have a feel for that yet, Dean? In terms of, you mentioned you can't kind of really pin down some norms because there haven't been enough races yet. But for example, with Hyrox, you're looking at an average time across all ages of about 1 hour 25 minutes. Deadly, you're looking at, what is it, Jude? About 1 hour 5, something like that. Deca is less.
I think we'll be close. I think we'll be close to around 55, 60 minutes. I think that's where the mean time will be. We're going to get people doing it in 30 to 40 who are the really good athletes. So I think the mean time will be about an hour.
So similar to Deadly. Similar to Deadly in the overall layout. That's the one that springs to mind as being most similar to you.
Yeah, it is very similar, and obviously already we're getting drawn to a lot of comparisons to that because of the venues that it takes place, kind of exercises. But I think that our events are typical of probably what's going to happen in this space more and more over the next 5 or 10 years. It's weird that in a sport, generally, it's the lower end of the sport, and I mean that in terms of the fitness level sort of starts first, and then you get to a high performing level. But it seems like in functional fitness, you look at CrossFit. CrossFit was never meant for average Joe just doing a few bicep curls and a couple of leg presses. Hyrox, these big events had been really quite at the high end. So it seemed to have almost started inversely. And that's quite strange, really. So I think now where there is an opportunity at the other end of the spectrum, so
it's been interesting hearing people talk about it because I think in some ways people have viewed, particularly people who are pushing Hyrox, view it very, very much as CrossFit is exactly what you said it is. It's a great sport that requires a lot of skills that most of us can't get anywhere near. So Hyrox is something more accessible. I mean, it also came slightly out of OCR, but Hyrox is kind of almost CrossFit, but much more accessible. And then you kind of look at it more closely, going, well, yes and no. And there, without naming names, there are a couple of other very popular hybrid races where they've looked at Hyrox specifically and gone, it's not actually as accessible as we need it to be, or we want it to be, or people are asking for us to make it. So we've had to do something different to that. And that seems to be where you're coming in.
I think you're bang on there. And especially with the way Hyrox is going in terms of, it's a victim of its own success in that Hyrox has strived for this high bar from day one. And normally what happens with those high bars, you never get there and you have to settle for a little bit less. But it seems with Hyrox, it's actually gone in the other direction. They've wanted to start high and they've actually sort of got higher and higher. And that's not changed even with numbers. I mean, what was the report on London the other weekend? 40,000 people. I mean, that's insane.
Yeah.
That is insane.
And I think you mentioned earlier about how you don't, the word simple may have poor connotations, but I think for the race that you're going for, simple is perfect. Like same with you, same with, simple can be a subjective term, but with all the events that you've mentioned that are in MacTuff, they're all simple, and that's all a good thing. If your like target audience is the everyday athlete, with the elites being there sprinkled in.
When people are first getting into something, and I use a half marathon novice runner as an example, they're scared of being last. They're scared of being the only runner there that's going to run in 2 to 2.5 hours. They're worried about being an hour behind everybody else.
That's me at CrossFit. Carry on.
So for somebody who's early in their fitness journey to consider Hyrox, and they see all these photos and videos of these gods and goddesses, you can sort of state in normal terms, in 5% body fat and all this stuff, terrifies the average person. And will they go to a Hyrox? Probably not. There needs to be other events, and again, there are. MacTuffX is just one of a number of events that is starting to fill.
And you talked about it being a victim of its own success. I think that applies here as well. Whereas if you're thinking about it, you're slightly intimidated for the exact reasons you've just stated. By the way, a lot of people look, certainly the ones that make it onto the Instagram shots, the way that they look, and then also, if you want tickets, the odds are you have to get in the first 5 minutes of tickets going on sale anyway. So to the person looking to get into fitness or looking to express their new fitness journey in a competitive environment, they're just not going to get in there anyway. So things like MacTuffX are absolutely needed for that huge amount who are not right at the apex of the pyramid, as you say.
Yeah, I hope so. And we are starting bold. Again, there's a few people, 30 events, but look, we aren't looking at 20,000, 40,000 people per event. I wish, but I can't wish, because you have to look at the simple mathematics of an athletics track, a 400 meters circuit, an infield. Physically, it's impossible to go over 950 because you will literally have people tripping over each other. Waves will just become Hyrox-like, which you just can't do in that kind of space. And over 30 events, if we on average take 500-600 people per event, we'll be more than happy. We understand that this is going to be a 2-3 journey for us to probably get anywhere near capacity on our events as a UK wide. I think we'll have individual events that do better than others inevitably, but as a generality, this is a small scale business. If we get 20,000 athletes in the first year, I would be wildly happy.
So tell us about, you alluded to people kind of raising eyebrows at the amount of events. Tell us about the thinking from from the size that you were to what is a fantastically aggressive 2026 schedule of events.
So, without sort of sharing marketing and business plans, which obviously nobody wants to do, fundamentally we're trying to go to the market. What's typically happened in functional fitness is that people have asked the market to come to them. So go to Portsmouth, go to Brighton, go to Swindon, go to Bristol, go to Leeds, go to Hull, go to Dundee, go to Aberdeen, where in some of these places there has been one or two functional fitness events, but there's never been any big ones. So certainly there's space for small ones. Obviously, we're still looking at London because massive population. It would be stupid not to. Birmingham, Manchester, for the same reasons. But by going to the market, obviously, we are looking at everywhere with a potential population 300,000 plus, and a certain reach in the market. You've got, in 2025, estimated figures at 11 million people that go to the gym in the UK.
Didn't know that.
In functional fitness at the moment, there's probably, at a rough estimate, 250,000 people that participate. There's no reason why over the next 5 to 10 years that should not double. It should really. Look at the amount of people that run in the UK. Look how many running races there are in the UK. The UK is 3,500 to 4,000 running races, and that's non-track. That's road per year, accommodating millions of people. It is from the lower part of the pyramid. That is where the growth is easiest to come from.
Particularly, as you say,
So
if you're going to where people are, rather than expecting them always to go to the big cities.
Yes. Yeah. So that's the whole sort of idea behind.
And I'm looking at the map of your events. Right. I mean, we used to live in Bedford. Bedford, Peterborough aren't the kinds of places where you're expecting to find big fitness events. And you also mentioned Portsmouth, and
we've still got a couple to go. We've got three that we're waiting on because of various factors, development, politics, etc.
Are you doing it very much a kind of a cricket season schedule, April through September? Is that when most of your events are happening?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've sort of looked at the idea of doing stuff indoors, but then you're competing with all the other stuff that goes on indoors. And apart from Hyrox, there's already 5 or 6 others. Your ATHXs and all this kind of stuff. Gauntlet up in Scotland, and all these kind of other bits and pieces that are taking place, and your costs start ramping up. So obviously we don't have the cost of doing a single event at the NEC, or London Olympia, or Excel in London, or the P&J in Aberdeen, or the SEC in Glasgow, Manchester Convention Centre. These places are expensive. So small numbers, small venues. This idea is to really have a great community event, grow a community, have the business in a section of the audience that will really enjoy it. But at the same time, yes, it's going to be timed.
Right.
Yes, it's going to be competitive. People will be competitive. It's in their nature. It's what we are as human beings. But it's not been designed with being ultra competitive.
So I just wanted to ask, you were talking just previously about the competitiveness of it, to what extent it's competitive, and the timing that you do time the races. What's the standard of judging like, and are you super strict with everyone, or what's your leniency with that side of things?
Judging is one of those questions that, again, I've looked at this space for sort of more than 5 years now, and judging is it's like the 2025 version of football referee conversations that have been going on for the last 50 years. The thing with judging is, and I don't care who says we're going to have the best judging in the world, you're reliant, unless you've got full-time staff, of which every single one is a judge, and all those judges are, again, all full-time staff, you will never have the level of standard, the level of judging that you need, ever. All you can do as an event is to aspire to be the best that you can be. And I'm sure every event in this space, from Hyrox to wherever, says the same thing. It's all you can be. And if you say anything different, you're just lying.
So one of the difficult questions that goes from there, like you said, it's impossible to be perfect. And even if you have a full-time staff, there's still room for errors. There always will be. But with your less experienced athletes that compete, are you on the side of, if they're really trying and it's close enough, we'll let them get away with it? Or here's the standard. If the judges know they're wrong, they will stick to it regardless of their experience level?
I think ultimately you've got to have people do stuff right. If it's not right, it's wrong. And the problem is if, what's the difference between letting a person who's finishing in 2 hours getting away with it and someone who's finishing in 35 minutes and breaking your world record getting away with it? What's the difference between the two? Nothing.
Speaking my language there.
So, yeah, you've got to hold everybody to the same standards.
Absolutely.
You have to. To have credibility as an event, you've got to hold everybody to the same standards. 100%. And I've thought through this very, very carefully, because long before I started this, I knew this was going to be the most contentious issue, and it will always be the most contentious issue. And this is what I came up with. So if people cannot complete an exercise, all you can do is DNF them for that exercise. It means, look, you still let them continue, you still let them complete the event, but ultimately they have a DNF against that exercise for them, so that 100%. When you look at the timing records, people know what they're holding themselves against.
I like that you said that, because I'm very much on the side of make the person fit the race, not the race fit the person. I think if you say, these are our standards, hit them, then I think the person going into that race needs to be fit enough or move well enough to hit those standards. You can't then change it because they've realized too late, oh, wait, either I can't squat below parallel or I can't extend my hips.
But at the same time, you don't want to be physically pulling someone off a racetrack.
Yeah.
You want to be encouraging them to finish, because, look, the goal of this is to make people better. Mm-hmm. Yeah, whether that's physically, mentally.
It's a fine line, because especially because you're targeting the bottom of the pyramid, aren't you? Exactly that. You're trying to encourage people to participate.
You've got to encourage people, and doing anything that's going to destroy people's confidence, destroy them wanting to do this kind of event. We've got to be really, really careful. So again, even the letters DNF, it's not going to be called DNF. I've still not decided what it's going to be called yet. It's not going to be DNF, because DNF, again, I come from a running background. DNF,
it's a bigger deal.
It's quite. So it will be uncompleted. It will reflect the fact that the exercise was not completed to standard.
And that's the thing with the balance, is like, yes, there's a standard, and I do believe that if you can't hit it, you don't deserve to go through it just for someone to sort of fuel your ego with a movement you can't complete. But then it's also, like you said, how do you make that person know that they can't complete the movement, but that's not the end of the world.
Right.
Like Absolutely. You're still a competent individual just because you can't squat below parallel. Maybe you've been training for 4 months and you've never tried to do that before. That's fine. You've paid your money. You're enjoying it. You won't get the credit for this movement. Let me show you how. Let's move on, keep you going, and keep you coming back for more, so that you can sort of make it your next mission, maybe to just pass every station.
Yeah. Correct. And these people, they'll still get the recognition, they'll still get the time, they'll still get the medal at the end of the event, because ultimately they are completing the event. And this, we hope, will be a part of a lot of people's journey eventually going forward.
We got one key question left, and that is, what is it that makes MacTuffX Racing the best hybrid fitness race out there?
And even if we hold the best first year that I could think of, I wouldn't be so facetious as to say we're the best fitness race out there. I think, for any event to call them the best is not the sort of thing that I do. We want to be the best that we can be, and we want to please as many people as we can, but ultimately you won't please all of the people all the time. I know it's a very old adage, but it is true. We just want to do what we can. Hopefully it's the right thing. Hopefully, we hit a spot that people think, that's great, that's good, I want to do that again. And people come back year on year. That's what we're trying to build with these kind of venues in various places around the UK. We want to build an event that in 5 years, 10 years time is still
And if people want to sign up for a race, where do they go, Dean?
MacTuffX.com.
And then there's the events tab, and there's a fantastically long list of possibilities to sign up for events there. So there's plenty of options.
Yeah, there is.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, really appreciate your time, Dean. Thank you so much for sharing all of that with us, and wishing you all the best for 2026. And hopefully we can get to one of these. Thank you again very much.
No problem at all.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot. Good to see you, and
Thanks,
enjoy
man.
the
You
rest
too.
of your day.
All right.
All right. Take care. Cheers. Bye.